Let's go through the student control part. So it has this option to give students control so that students can cast to your panel. It's a great tool, but I want to show you what this looks like so that if you're a little bit uneasy about this, you can see it, and also show you what it looks like on the student end for some of these other things like assessments or even messages. I already have my test student joined. Let me just pull that up. They're here. This is what they see when they log in, and they log in very similar to you. The web page works better for them instead of the app. The app really doesn't give them any more tools, and it's just easier for them to log in through the web page. You can find that in our documentation about where to put this, and you can post this either in your Clever page or in Canvas or somewhere like that. They have the whiteboard and they have request control. Their whiteboard is more or less a personal whiteboard until it's shared out. Since a lot of the students don't have a touchscreen device, I don't know if this is going to be particularly helpful because they'd have to navigate it with a touchpad, but it could be something that they may find helpful if they can navigate that. So if I'm a student, I can request control. But let's say I accidentally click that, I can also cancel that request, and then it's done. It comes off the teacher's end, and they can't see it. But as a student, I'm going to request control because I have something that I wanted to share with the class, and as you can see, it shows up here for the teacher to approve. Now, if I click the student's name, it will immediately give them access to share their screen. But if I'm a little bit curious about this and I want to request a preview, I can click this eyeball here and it will ask them what they want to share. So let's say that I'm going to say I'm a student and I want to share my Stanley County School. Well, let's just say I've got this document here, my Slope PDF that we saw in an earlier video, and I'm going to share. So that's what I'm sharing from the student end. From the teacher end, I see that. So I can either deny this request or I can share the screen. And if I click share screen, it will immediately go to my panel and the student is now sharing. So let's say I share screen and now that student is sharing that document. So they don't really have all the annotation tools in Vivi, so understand that. I mean, they would have whatever is available on their Chromebook, but they don't have the same tools that teachers have. They have the ability to share the screen. So everything else would have to be built into whatever activity you're doing. This works great for presentations though, because they could present from their device and they don't have to send you anything. They could just present from there and you could do what you needed to do. Now, let's say that they're done. You can go ahead and remove them from sharing and it's done. It takes the screen back and it's good. There's nothing that they have to do. Now, this is where some of these other tools that we brushed up on in the dashboard video, you can send your class a message, but unless they have the messages pulled up, they see it here, and they'll see it on their dashboard, but if they're on another tab or anything, they don't necessarily see it. So they would have to go here to see the message. So you may find that helpful. It just depends. Depends on how their notifications are set up and whether you want to use that. Personally, I think that at times this may be helpful, but most of the time, if they're not on the screen, they're not going to see the message right away. The other thing that you can do is these assessments. We talked about it where this doesn't give any questions or anything like that. You start the assessment, and on the student's end, this is what they see at the bottom. So they only see the answer choices, and then at that point, once they answer, it goes away. They can't get back to it. On the teacher end, I see this, but once the assessment's over, I don't really have any way to get this information somewhere else. So, if I want to save this information, I don't have any way to export it. I don't have anything. So if I go to start a new assessment, it just clears that out. So understand that. that's kind of the way all this works. And even the polling, let's say I wanted to ask, hey, how'd you feel about what you learned? Start poll. And on the student's end, it'll show up exactly the same way. And again, you don't have a way to do anything to export this information. So as a quick exit ticket, sure, it could be very helpful to do this, but understand you're going to have to collect that information right then and there, and if you want to save it for later, you're going to have to find a way to document it right then. You can't start a new poll and go back and get that information. If you have any questions about any of these student tools, I know I kind of went through the highlights of it. Feel free to get in there, play around, but for the most part, the screen sharing is probably going to be where your students will spend more time than anything. Feel free to use the assessments and polls and even messages, but understand that there's limitations behind those. So as long as you understand the limitations, then, it may be just perfect for what you need it to do. If you have any questions or run into trouble, just let us know.